February 23, 1964. Chrysler's 426 Hemi sweeps the Daytona 500, first, second, third, at a record 144.7 miles per hour. Ford isn't just beaten, Ford is humiliated. Within weeks, an internal memo carries a single mandate: build an engine that destroys the Hemi and do it in 90 days. What they created, the 427 single overhead Cammer, produced 616 horsepower, arguably the most radical V8 America had ever seen. It never won a single race it was built for, and the reason had nothing to do with engineering. Richard Petty's blue Plymouth flashes across the finish line, the Hemi's deep thunder echoing off the grandstands. Behind him, two more Plymouths sweep in, 1, 2, 3, all powered by Chrysler's new 426 Hemi. The timing sheets confirm what everyone in the pits already knows. Petty's average speed, 144.7 miles per hour, shatters the Daytona record. In the garage, Ford crews stand silent, picking over battered Galaxies and empty coffee cups. There is no comfort in the numbers. Not a single Ford finishes within sight of the lead pack. The press descends, notebooks out, hungry for a story. Headlines the next morning are blunt: Hemi humiliates field, Petty's powerhouse, Ford routed at Daytona. National magazines call it a rout. Local Florida papers run photos of the Hemi-badged Plymouths crossing the line, Petty grinning in victory lane, the losing teams in the background, heads down. For Ford, this is more than a bad day at the track. The Hemi's debut isn't just a win, it's a public spectacle, a warning shot. The engine's hemispherical combustion chambers, rumored at over 425 horsepower, have changed the game overnight. NASCAR officials shuffle the rule book, quietly worried about the sudden leap in speed. Rival drivers, men like Junior Johnson, mutter about the new arms race. In the boardrooms of Dearborn, the defeat lands like a punch. Sales managers see the numbers, performance. Ford models dipping at the dealerships. Engineers feel the sting in every technical report, every lap time. The Hemi hasn't just beaten Ford. It has exposed a gap that can't be closed with tweaks or tuning. The headlines keep coming, each one a reminder. Something radical will have to happen, and soon. The entire world of American racing has just shifted, and Ford is left staring at the scoreboard, wondering how fast a company can move when its reputation is on the line. The phone lines in Dearborn lit up before sunrise. In the wake of Daytona, Ford's executive floor became a war room. On March 1, 1964, John Maxey, Vice President of Engineering, sent a memo that would ripple through every corner of the company. Ford would not accept another public defeat. The directive was blunt: build an engine that could crush the Hemi and do it in 90 days. The clock started ticking the moment the memo hit Bill Rogers' desk. Rogers, head of the Performance Engineering Division, was handed the assignment with no room for negotiation. The language was clear: the Chrysler Hemi has set a benchmark we cannot ignore. Our competitive schedule now mandates an accelerated camshaft development program. Inside Ford's engineering complex, the mood shifted from wounded pride to frantic resolve. Managers began pulling engineers from other projects, forming a strike team that would work nights, weekends, whatever it took. The project's working name, SOHC 427, spread through the ranks like a challenge. There would be no new block, no time for blue sky design. Everything depended on reimagining the existing FE427 architecture, pushing it into territory no American V8 had ever seen. The urgency wasn't just technical. Sales managers reported a dip in showroom traffic, especially at dealerships known for performance models. The boardroom wanted a fix, not an excuse. Every day lost to deliberation meant another week of Chrysler headlines, another round of questions from anxious dealers, another blow to Ford's reputation in the only arena that mattered, public perception. The 90-day deadline became more than a goal. It was a lifeline. Engineers scrawled it on chalkboards, circled it in red on wall calendars, and measured every late-night session against it. The pressure was relentless. Internal status reports tracked progress in hours, not days. Roger's team knew the consequences. Deliver or watch Ford fade from the racing world's memory. There was no time for ceremony or second-guessing. The next move would define the company's future on the track, and perhaps its standing in Detroit's brutal horsepower hierarchy. A 6-foot chain snakes along the valley of the FE block, linking the crankshaft to a camshaft perched high above the combustion chambers. This is not the familiar world of push rods and rocker arms. The SOHC 427's valvetrain is a mechanical leap, one that defies the conventions of American V8 engines in the mid-1960s. Instead of the short, direct path of a pushrod, the Cammer's chain-driven camshaft sits directly over the valves, operating them with a single, sweeping motion. The geometry is both elegant and audacious. Each bank receives its own cam actuating massive valves, 2.502 inches on the intake and 2.056 inches on the exhaust, set at a wide angle to create a true hemispherical chamber. The ports themselves are cavernous. Intake runners measure 1.78 inches at the throat, opening to a cross-section that rivals those found in European racing engines. Flow benches recorded intake figures as high as 380 cubic feet per minute at 0.8 inches of mercury, a number that left even seasoned engineers blinking at the manometer. Air rushes through these heads with an urgency that matches the pressure in the drafting room. The chain, a half-inch wide industrial roller stretching the length of a grown man, is more than just a mechanical solution, it is a statement. It allows the cam to spin at crankshaft speed, keeping valve events precise at engine speeds far beyond the comfort zone of any pushrod design. The result is a red line that soars past 7,000 revolutions per minute, with stable operation observed up to 7,300 revolutions per minute before valve float. Every dimension, every angle, every material choice is a response to the challenge laid down by the Hemi. The Cammer's heads, cast in heat-treated iron, bolt onto the familiar FE block, but transform it into something unrecognizable. The combination of massive ports, oversized valves, and the overhead cam layout delivers a level of breathing and rev capability that no other American V8 of the period could touch. In the hands of Ford's engineers, the 427 block becomes a vessel for ambition and risk, and the hope that radical thinking could reclaim lost glory. The Dyno sheets tell the story that rumors and press releases could only hint at. On July 24, 1964, inside Ford's powertrain test facility, the SOHC 427 Cammer delivered a reading that sent shockwaves through both the engineering team and the upper floors of Dearborn's glass house. It registered 616 horsepower at 7,000 revolutions per minute. The number was not a theoretical projection or a marketing flourish. It was a hard, ink-on-paper fact, recorded in the factory's own logbooks. This figure was not just a step ahead of the competition, it was a leap that threatened to upend the entire order of American racing. For comparison, Chrysler's 426 Hemi, the very engine that forced Ford's hand, was officially rated at 425 horsepower in its street configuration. Even the most optimistic race-tuned Hemis whispered about in pit lane rarely claimed more than 500. The Cammer's output, verified under controlled conditions, eclipsed them all. The implications rippled far beyond the dyno cell. In boardrooms and garages, rivals pored over every leak and rumor. Engineers at Chrysler, already riding high, suddenly found themselves staring at a horsepower deficit that no carburetor swap or cam grind could erase. General Motors, watching from the sidelines, quietly shelved plans for their own radical V8, unwilling to enter a contest that now seemed destined for escalation beyond reason. At Ford, the mood was electric and anxious. The Cammer's power was not just a technical achievement, it was a loaded weapon. The numbers made their way into confidential memos circulated among NASCAR officials and team owners. The possibility of a Ford with 616 horsepower on the high banks of Daytona or Charlotte became a source of both fascination and dread. The engine's overhead cam design, massive ports, and sky-high rev capability threatened to redefine the limits of stock car racing. For the first time, the American 5.8 had crossed into territory usually reserved for European Grand Prix machines, exotic, expensive, and untested in the brutal wheel-to-wheel world of NASCAR. Rival manufacturers and sanctioning bodies faced a stark choice: allow the Cammer onto the grid and risk a technological arms race, or intervene before the balance of power shifted beyond recall. The dyno sheet, stamped and filed, became an artifact of both triumph and controversy, a single number that would haunt the politics of racing for years to come. On October 19, 1964, NASCAR issued a bulletin that would upend the championship before a single Cammer ever reached the starting grid. The language was blunt. Effective immediately, any engine not derived from a production push rod V8 shall be ineligible for competition. In a single stroke, the rulebook slammed shut on Ford's overhead cam dream. The 427 SOHC, engineered in a fever of late nights and corporate desperation, was now forbidden fruit. The ban arrived not as a rumor, but as a printed directive circulated to teams and the press, stamped with the authority of Bill France's office. There was no room for appeal, no technical loophole to exploit. The rule did not just target Ford, it swept up Chrysler's Hemi as well, but the intent was unmistakable. Ford's new weapon had been declared too advanced, too different, too dangerous to the fragile equilibrium of stock car racing. The timing of the ban left Ford's management furious. Minutes from the October board meeting captured the frustration. They said, "We have invested in good faith under the guidance of existing rules. To change the field after the whistle is unsportsmanlike." Ford's public relations office released a statement denouncing the decision as a political maneuver, thinly veiled as a safety measure. Privately, engineers and executives traded accusations of backroom lobbying and double standards. The Cammer, with its chain-driven overhead cam, massive valves, and a 7,000 RPM redline, was now a technical orphan, engineered for a race it would never run. For the teams who had spent months preparing, the news landed like a body blow. Shop floors littered with prototype heads and camshafts went silent. Mechanics boxed up parts destined for super speedways, now relegated to storage or the uncertain world of drag racing. The official ban text, quoted in the morning papers, became the dividing line between what was possible and what would be allowed. In the span of a single press release, innovation gave way to regulation, and Ford's answer to the Hemi was locked out before it could ever prove itself. On October 22, 1964, Ford's public relations office issued a statement that landed like a bombshell across the racing world. The company would withdraw all factory support from NASCAR for the 1965 season. The language was direct. No Ford-backed teams, no engineering assistance, no money for race promotions. Newspapers picked up the story, but the headlines were smaller than the news deserved. Most fans and even some team owners did not grasp the scale of what was about to happen. The numbers told the real story. The Daytona 500 entry list for 1964 had shown 35 Fords on the grid. By February 1965, that number had dropped to just 12. At Charlotte, the field shrank and the grandstands emptied. Ticket sales at Daytona fell from 106,000 to 84,000, a 21% drop in 1 year. The Southern 500 lost $150,000 in gate receipts. Sponsors pulled ad dollars and television coverage scaled back. For the first time since the post-war boom, NASCAR's future looked uncertain, all because one manufacturer had taken its toys and gone home. Ford's leadership did not mince words in their press statement. They accused NASCAR of moving the goalposts, of punishing innovation, and of letting politics override fair competition. The company's letter to Bill France, quoted in Automotive News, was blunt. "We have invested in good faith under the existing rules. To change them now is unsportsmanlike and damaging to the sport." The boycott was not just a corporate tantrum. It was a calculated disruption, a move designed to show how much Ford mattered to the show. Race promoters scrambled to fill empty fields. Local papers ran stories about ticket holders asking for refunds. Drivers who had spent years in Ford machinery faced hard choices: switch brands or sit out. In the background, the radical SOHC 427 sat idle, its promise silenced not by failure, but by the politics of the rulebook. By the end of the 1965 season, the message was clear. Without Ford, NASCAR was a smaller, quieter spectacle. The boycott forced everyone, from officials to fans, to reckon with what had been lost, and to wonder what might have been if the Cammer had been allowed to run. Connie Kalitta crouched behind the wheel at Riverside on May 8, 1964. A fresh Cammer bolted into his dragster. The grandstands buzzed with talk of Ford's banned NASCAR monster, now unleashed in a new arena. When the Christmas tree flashed green, Kalitta's machine rocketed down the quarter mile, the SOHC's high-pitched howl cutting through the desert air. The NHRA timing sheet told the story in black and white, 9.58 seconds, at 147 miles per hour. The crowd erupted. In a single pass, the Cammer found a new stage, one without rulebook politics or boardroom deals. Word spread fast. Racers and crew chiefs poured over the numbers, hungry for the secret behind that speed. The drag strip, once a sideshow to oval racing, became the proving ground for Ford's exiled engine. Kalitta's run wasn't just a record, it was a resurrection. The Cammer, denied its shot at Daytona, had found a new kingdom in the world of straight-line acceleration. Legends aren't always born in victory lane. Sometimes they claw their way back from exile, 1/4 mile at a time. Ford's parts division found a way to keep the Cammer alive, at least on paper. Instead of shelving the project entirely, they assigned it a part number, 427 SOHC 001, and quietly listed the engine in their over-the-counter catalog. This was not a production car option or a showroom model. It was a technical loophole, a way to offer the engine as a replacement part to anyone who knew where to look and had the funds. Sales ledgers from 1965 to 1967 record exactly 124 units shipped, generating $3.2 million in revenue. Most of these engines went to independent racers, speed shops, and a handful of privateers hoping to capture some of the Cammer's forbidden promise. For Ford, it was a bittersweet compromise. The engine technically reached the market, but only as a crate motor, never as the heart of a factory car. Each shipment was a reminder of what might have been a world-class racing V8 sold not as a champion, but as an orphan, boxed and shipped to anyone determined enough to chase its legend. Auction catalogs now list the SOHC 427 among the rarest prizes in American muscle history. In recent years, original engines have crossed the block at prices between $75,000 and $150,000, with paperwork and provenance sending a few even higher. Collectors chase not just the iron, but the myth, a crate motor that never saw a factory car, a power plant built for a race it never ran. Historian Dr. William Parker said the Cammer was a ghost in the record books, more valuable for what it threatened than what it achieved. Historians still debate what might have happened if the Cammer had been allowed to run at Daytona. Some argue Ford's 616 horsepower, high-revving V8 could have upended the 1965 season, forcing Chrysler to escalate or retreat. Others point to the ripple effect. A Cammer win might have sparked a new wave of overhead cam engines in American showrooms, shifting the muscle car era toward European-style technology years ahead of its time. Instead, the engine's legend grew in the shadows, its potential measured in auction prices and whispered what-ifs. The Cammer remains the most powerful American V8 of its era, never to claim a single official victory, a monument to ambition outpaced by politics. Even now, the 427 single overhead cam engine stands as a monument to what desperation and genius can produce under impossible deadlines, only to be exiled by boardroom politics, not defeat on the track. In an era when innovation still collides with regulation, its silenced roar haunts every rule book. The greatest American V8 of its time never claimed a checkered flag, and its absence reshaped racing's very future. What would victory have changed? Drop your thoughts below.